Hello everybody, my name is Zelinator. You ready for another episode of Zelinator Doesn't Know What He's Doing? Sun's just shining right in my eyes. Should have brought a snack, but that's okay, we're gonna start anyways. So, let's make music, shall we? As I try to find and once again get notified now live on your channel. I'm looking for... Is any of this like copyable? How about I go back to the original? Assuming I know. Here's the music template. Alright, I need that. I don't know the back button. Alright, I am looking for experimental map pack. Alright, we're gonna copy this here. Doop. And that's not how you type. Doop. Save all. Alright, now we can get to work. As I slide this over to the main thingy. Alright, what do we have in here? Who pinged me? Nothing important. Howdy, Paul. Welcome back. As I see how the setup currently is. So here's my start. Alright, well, let's just start making noise. We have technicians here. Make a noise. What do I want to put? Here, we'll go default 90 for this one. I'll decide whether or not that's what I'm looking for. Alright, so I need a sound. I need a wave player. I'll go for... Do I have like a dupe? I need a dupe sound. I don't need one, but I kind of want one. We're looking for like what? Underscore A1 dash 000, let's say 9. Alright, what do we have here? I don't know if any of these are going to be exactly what I'm looking for. Oopsies. I'm not looking for a Tom. Alright. Let's do... I don't have the electric piano, do I? Oh no. I didn't import those sounds. I should have. Because I'm pretty sure the only piano I have is the original one I imported, which is a very natural sound. Alright, so I don't have a way to hear this until I start something. So we are going to... let me see exactly how this sounds, because I can't remember. We'll start with repeating every 4... Oh wait, it's slow enough to hear. Trigger delay. Then we'll do every 0.5 is when we stop. I've thought about working with Soybean on music. We have such different workflows. He'd have to do all of his work, and then I'd have to do all of our work. I don't know how that would all come together. Alright, we're gonna save. I think this is on. That's center. Alright, what does this sound like? What? Oh, I hear it now. Okay. what's the next octave up? 72. That has reverb to it. And I never did figure out that clicking. Alright. That's close enough to a dupe, unless there's more. Can I do something strange? And then now I'm gonna need an ADSR envelope. It's close enough to the dupe. I was kind of listening in my head. I don't have the electric piano that I very much liked using back in Long Haul to the Farlands. I thought I imported the samples in here, but it appears that is false. Alright, so now I need multiply audio. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna hook that into modulation and frequency. Oh wait, hold on here. I just use note. It's not note. It's not frequency to MIDI, MIDI to frequency. I don't have a keyboard that I am currently capable of using on this computer. I have a electric keyboard somewhere. Oh no, I know where it is, but I don't have a proper power cable for it. If I want this to be the same, there's my attack, there's my release, therefore this should sound around the same. And we are going to slide that over, and then we're just going to make the whole thing quiet. Sine waves are really loud, so I like turning them down. And then I can adjust the volume at the end. Boop. Can I see? They redid the entire stream setup ever since I last did this, and I think to myself, I don't know where anything is now. All right, we're gonna set this to 72. All right. Oh wait, you know what I need? I need to multiply this. I need to not have that be 1.0. Because I'm pretty sure where it's at, it's just gonna sound like a saw wave for the most part. That is very loud. Let me turn that back down on my end. I'm gonna turn that down here. Oh wait, doesn't this repeat? It repeats a little bit slowly. We're gonna set that to 2, and then this is gonna be like 0.25. And then we're gonna keep this at 72, but if I set this to 60, we'll see how it's 72 and 60, and then it's 60 and 60, and see how that goes. All right, we're gonna multiply this by a variable. Not actually a variable. Variables are separate, but now I need synth P gain. Boop. Slide that over, make my stuff look ever so slightly neater. I say as oftentimes this does not look neat. And we'll set that to a max of, let's go 200. All right, people are talking. We're gonna ignore that. All right, so now we'll see how this goes. I'll figure out the notes after I want to get the sound first. I don't hear the difference. How far does this need to go? We're gonna set this to 1,000. We're gonna set that big number. I wonder if that should be linear or not linear. Frequency or volume. I don't know. Sometimes I touch buttons, I don't know what they do. And sometimes I don't touch a button because I don't know what it's gonna do. I bricked it. Huh. That's rather odd. What was I saying about not knowing what I'm doing? So after a certain amount, this just says bye. Alright. Okay. I can work with this. So what we're gonna do instead, we have plan B. This is when we pull in. We're gonna separate that. Keep this one here. Yeah, you don't know. We don't need that now. Because we're just gonna combine the two. Yay. Alright, that modulation is not working. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to slide that over. In that case, I don't think I really need this. We'll keep those two separate for now. Oop. It's not music for a game mod, this is music for my game as a whole. Alright, so this was originally 0.25, so we'll set this to, we'll start at 0.5. Or it should have been the other way around, except whatever is generating this audio, I don't have a way to accept modulation. Let's see, what's in here, shall we? This one is just a sine wave. That's the only wave I'm using in here. So if anything, I would have hooked it up there. We'll leave that empty for now. If I really feel like changing it, then that's for future me. Alright, so how's this go then? In fact, here, let me bump this down to 0.1. That is rather close to what I'm looking for. If I say, you know what? We'll keep these together. This is the part where now we do since P note. And then this one's going to be 0 to 127, I believe, is the range. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I should have... how do I round this? I don't round. I just say what? To integer? Do I floor it? No. How do I convert this to an integer? That's a great question. Is it to int? Float to int 32. There we go. That's the number I need. And then we're just going to convert this back to a float. This way, I only get whole numbers. Only whole notes and not frequencies between notes. And the frequency will scale linearly. Or I should say the frequency will scale properly for what people are used to hearing as it's getting It's converting out directly from the MIDI note. Alright, so let's go now. Oh wait, hold on. This one was 72, right? Yeah, I forgot. So this time we add 12. This one's a whole octave higher than what the saw is. Alright, let's see. Does this sound musical at all? Okay, so what I think, there's a happy range. There's a range here of notes that they sound happy. This almost sounds like space music. Alright, so I'll take all that and keep everything here. So now what I need to do, I need to generate the note pattern. And we'll keep this to whole numbers for now. Take a hearing test in school. I don't think I ever did hearing tests in school, but I understand what you were talking about. Alright, so we are going to now, safe to delete this, probably. I don't think I'm using that. Alright, so now we come up with the pattern. We're going to make this all consistent for now, unless if I should do the rhythm first, in which case keep this to 60. Slide that over. I don't like overlapping nodes. Alright, keep that to 60. And now, this is the part where things get interesting. So, I need every trigger in here. We're going to do 0.25 out, unless... What if I just don't release it? Does it just keep playing? Let's see, this might be a little loud. I turned the volume down for y'all, so hopefully it's not too bad. Alright, so if I really want, I just don't have to release. But we'll keep it at 0.25 for now. Alright, so every two, we're going to trigger... Well, here, we'll start somewhere, and then... So this one's going to repeat 3 times with 0.75. I wonder... Oh, well, here, we'll just try it. This is something I learned. It's rather common. We're going to do it anyways. It is 3 times, right? 3 times every 2. So that goes there. That's also attacking there. And this is the part where things start getting a little messy. There's a term for this beat pattern, but I can't remember what it's called. Yay! Alright, so we're getting there. I wonder if I could do this the other way. If I did 0.25. Oh, does that mean it's gonna release every... This is the part that starts getting complicated. We'll just hit play and see how it sounds. I wonder if I could do maybe like one long one and then 2 shorts. If I do decisions as I try to think about this. Or what if I swap back and forth? So what if I did a counter here? So that means I'll need to find an opposite for it. We'll reset every, I guess, 4 times. All right, let's go back to this. I need a way to always like select an output, unless if there's like a flip, right? No, not a flip. There's a sequence. So every reset, it does 1 and then 2. So and that means the problem is I don't have a way to like select. Otherwise, I could route to like an integer. Do 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 do. I did that right. Yeah. I guess we'll do 0 and 1. And so is there like a select? There are different nodes here compared to what is in regular. Oh wait, but that's not what I want. Because then that's just the same as using the trigger sequence. Unless, hold on. No, that's not the same because I don't set it here. On trigger, I do here. Aha! This was that tactic I did before or something. So that way, this will fire every here. So now, what we do, I guess if I want 1 to be default, here, let's start here, and I'll figure out something. But I'm about to need trigger or any, I think. Well, that's nothing because 0 is default. If I really wanted, I could set this to like 4, have 4 different patterns. Let's do that, shall we? So the concept works. Trigger route int 4. That means trigger sequence 4. And then trigger select 4. Once I learn how to spell. All right, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hooray, basic counting. And as this is digital, we start with 0. I did see that Kurt started his next journey to the corner. It's kind of interesting because I remember, I think it was years ago, like 2014 or 15. I think I remember him talking about how Oh man, that means I'm gonna need to trigger any 2 of these. I remember him talking about how he was considering walking forward to the edge of the world. And so I guess within the past several years, he changed his mind. Oh wait, don't I? Maybe I only need one of these. Because I need this one to go here. We'll... here, we'll make this one. We will assign this the first one. But now I need to hook this one up. Boop. I'll just keep dealing with release here. We'll see if I ever do anything with that, because that will add even more flair. So now what I need 4 different trigger repeats, and these are going to be the 4 different beats we use, or whatever the term is. Did you know that I haven't learned anything about music theory? Alright, so what we'll do here is we'll be adjusting the time between each, as well as the number of repeats. And then we're gonna make that slightly more organized. I know there are buttons. I want to say Q straightens it all out, but I don't always like how it automatically straightens nodes. Alright. And let's keep sliding this over. To think that this is just the first layer, and I have to do 5 of these. Alright, we'll slide that over. It's nicer when you keep the lines as short as possible. Of course, this is going to get messy once I start figuring out what note to play. Alrighty, so we'll go 0.25, oops, 0.25 every 4. And then this one will be here. What if I first bounce back and forth between these and make sure that these 2 patterns sound good together? Howdy, Henry, welcome back. This is one of those days where I woke up and thought to myself, I should stream. I haven't streamed in a while. So much for getting to whatever games I've been needing to play, though. I still have, I think it's Rampage on my Zelinator Plays list that I haven't gone to yet. Alright, this is where we sit and we listen. That first one's too fast. Or is it? Okay, I'm gonna have to do an override here because I need this on play because I'm pretty sure this first one plays twice. The problem with logic. Otherwise, I could do, I think it's what, 1, 2, because it's already playing the default value. And so if I do 1, 2, 3, 0, because if it's already playing the first sequence, when this resets, I want it to play the next sequence. Alright, does this sound correct? It still plays it twice. So whatever is here, decisions, that means we go back to 0, 1, 2, 3. And then this one, I need to trigger that first, which means we're going to bypass all of this. And the first time we play, we're going to activate that sequence. We're going to trigger this one. That way, we only do value 0 once. And hope that this doesn't mess up anything in the future. Alright, so this one's probably fine, unless if I do... Can we do every 0.52? I need to listen to how fast this is. Okay, if I have consistent pattern, inconsistent, consistent pattern, this one would work best inconsistently. If I do... Dude, it should be slower again. So I have 8 sections of 0.25 I can work with. So out of 200... 33, 66, 99, 132 out of 200. What if we did... What can we set this to? Is it 3? Oh, this is gonna be very fast. Oh no, that's fine. But we want this to be accurate, so I need to divide 1 over 3 to get exactly 33%, 33.3 repeating. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Who's eating my bit rate today? Chomp chomp. Where's the live button? How do I use this thing? I'm not used to the new setup on here. I guess that is already live and it's just anyway, it's not important. Minor gripes. Alright, so I don't know if y'all heard this last one. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't feel right. What I think I'll do, we're gonna do something a little weird. It happens. So we're going to do... Oh, but that means I'm gonna have to well, either way, I want to do it 3 times, but instead of 3 repeats, we're gonna delay it. I want to do 0.25. So I should say it's gonna be 1, and then 0.25 after that, and then 0.5 after that. So then that means I need, I think it's trigger delay, because I'm pulling 3 signals from this. So slide that over. Poop. Is it not? I guess they're different widths. Okay, so now I need any 3. I'm going to future-proof this and say any 4. Because this is nicer than needing to redo. So now, instead of using 1 consistent repeat, we're having 2 different times for this. Hooray, variation is what makes music fun. and I'm not good at it because I think too mathematically perfect and consistent and all that stuff. All right, let's see how this listens. All right, this one's fine, but I think it does need it. It feels like it's missing something. So we're gonna plop that in, and that's why I added future proofing. I'll decide whether or not this sounds better or worse than having it just be the 3. I have an idea. How about we add even more variation? Remember, like I was saying earlier, I'm probably overcomplicating this. It happens. But we're not going to play that 4th note every time. We're going to play it every other time. Unless if I should play it on the 1st and not the 2nd. We'll decide. Let's see how this one goes first. Alright, we're getting there. Don't worry, we're almost done with this first layer. Hooray! Windows 10 support is officially over for average consumers. I entered into the was it long-term, no, extended support, extended security updates. I think that's what it is. I don't remember. It's something like that. But anyways, it only ended back in October. It's been 3 months. That's not a long time. But anyways, yes, I'm still on Windows 10 because I'm a grumpy old man who doesn't want to upgrade to Windows 11. So I just postponed the problem until next year, October, when the extended security updates are no longer going. So I have 9 more months to figure out my problem. Okay, happy medium. I figured it out. Only every other time do I play that 4th note. I think that sounds most interesting. I wonder if I could do because working on numbers, I should say working on notes that are not within quarters, it feels off. And I don't have the skill to make it not feel off. So I probably can't get much better than this without redoing complicated setup. Alright, so we're going to leave that there as I readjust this, because that does not look to be the same level. Okay, now that's the same line, I think. Alright, well, now we have this. And here's what we're going to do. Here's where I need another counter. In fact, does this... I could do some interesting things here. So let's do Here, let me grab my seed, because this is where we do the proceduralness. That way, every time you listen to this, it sounds the same. Alright, I'm looking for 3 trigger, what are they, filters? I kind of wish they used the same names as blueprint equivalents, but I guess because they're not exactly the same. So we need 3 of these because we're going to have one feeding in each into, I should say both outputs go into another filter. So right off the bat, we're just going to say 0.5. Each one of these is going to have equal opportunity. All right, well, equal opportunity based on the seed. So now, here's where things get interesting, because we are going to have 4 different values times 2. So I need, I think it's route. Yeah, so we need 2 of these because it's got to be 1 for each gain here. So let me do, yeah, it's heads, tails, heads, tails. And then the other one is heads, tails, heads, tails. These lines are, I should say these lines can be complicated. And so far, we're doing all right. Bring that over, make it nice, neatly organized. All right, so we're going to do heads for both of these, which is most likely going to be the priority. So we're going to do 0.1 and 0.5, because that's how we have here. I'll organize it later. Let me get the values in first. So set 0 for each of these is going to be the default volume level for what we want. So we're going to say the second one will be 0.0, but this one will still be 0.5. And then the next one is going to be 0.1, with this one being 0. And then the last one is just going to be 0 and 0, totally muted. So the probability is here. Well, I guess we'll keep it at the default. Seed that I use is 5. I use this with all the meta sounds. So every time I get the seed for music, it's always the same. And this one really, really likes prioritizing heads for the beginning. So first, when using a 50% probability, a seed of 5 produces heads a lot at the beginning, and then it's kind of balanced between heads and tails, and then it goes into tails for a little while, I guess, to counteract all the heads at the beginning, and then it sort of balances after that, but I haven't listened to that repetition enough. All right, so we'll see how this goes. Do-do-ba-doop. I have a proper, I don't know where it's safe. Howdy, Jonas, welcome back. I'll just keep watching here. If you look at too many wires while the music is playing, the engine likes to crash, and that has produced very miserable experiences, but oh well. Alright, let's see how this goes. You know what? No, hold on. I do need to watch this because I need to know when exactly stuff gets set. And hopefully this doesn't crash. And I already made a mistake. So this is not triggering. My fault. I didn't hook up that second counter. So we're going to do another trigger counter. And we're going to check the, where is, I did not move that one properly. So this is every 2 beats. Or, I guess what I could do is... Do I even need to count that? What's going to be simpler? Well, every repeat needs another BPM to seconds node, which means to minimize the amount of nodes I have, I should just put the counter. Because 1 is less than 2. Alright, so... that means 2 of these is 1 beat. We're going to do... if I reset this every 4, then that means we're going to take 4 multiplied by... If I did 4 by 4, that could be 16. And then whenever this resets, we're going to drag this way over here. And this is when nodes get messy. And now we have this big line just going all the way through here. Alright, so now at least this will trigger. So every 8 nodes, or every 8 beats, this is going to swap around. Alright, so I did that right, because it's every 4, 4. I guess if it's 4, 4, 4, 4, then that means every one of these, every full sequence, it's going to decide what to change. We'll see if this is too frequent or not frequent enough, because I might bump that up to 32. That way it plays through the sequence twice, but then that means there's a chance of it being muted. Math. I kind of wish there was a way to simulate this faster, but without messing with values, I don't think there's a way to do so. So if I want to listen to how it's supposed to sound, I have to sit here and listen to how it's supposed to sound and wait around for that randomness to start kicking in. Which in this case, if this chooses heads, I think it's like 5 times in a row, 5 or 6 times in a row, that means this has to cycle through. Oh, it changed. It's quieter though, because now I'm only playing 1. Man, it doesn't sound as cool anymore. Now it's playing the other half of that. It almost sounds like Morse code. If it did if it did heads on that second trigger 1 time, then that means it's got to take another 4. This might get complicated. Kinda interesting though that looking at the saw wave, that the frequencies it produces is the same shape as the wave itself, but backward. Because I think it starts from... You know, I don't know. I don't know which way the saw is going. I don't know if it starts at 0, goes to 1, or if it starts at 1 and goes to 0. Well, not 0, -1, but... Okay, so it takes nearly 3 minutes of listening before this just says, I'm gonna take a break. I feel like this whole thing might be a little too fast, though. I don't know if I'm a big fan of 90 ppm for the level. Well, that means I have to go through and find every instance of BPM and change that. You know what? Here, how about we simplify this? What was I saying earlier about using less nodes? Okay, so that's a 0.5 at the top. This is another 0.5. So we're going to boop. Both of those are now 0.5. And then that's a 0.25. That does kind of sound like some of the hospital equipment you would hear. And howdy, welcome to the stream. There you go. Less nodes, more wires. All right, that's balanced enough. Bring that over. All right, so now instead of 90, we'll go 80, and we'll see how this feels. Because it feels like keeping up this energy for too long gets tiring. If I really wanted, it would totally mess up the system. I should say it would be very difficult to not mess up the system, but if I really wanted, I could try changing BPM during the playthrough and hope it works. But I don't trust myself with that yet, so we're gonna stick to one for now. Maybe in future stuff. Unless if I change my mind by the time we get to the 5th layer. I spent an hour and I've only done one layer. Well, thankfully, this is the most complicated one. Everything after this has got to be simpler. Now that feels too slow. Okay, time to go to 85. It needs to feel just right. Because at first it was too fast, now it's too slow. And I need to make sure these are all the same, because if they're not all the same, it's gonna get weird with how everything is timed. This is the only one that doesn't really need to be the same as the others, because this is just how long each note is held for. Alright, how does this go? This might be fine. I think if once I add the other instrument layers, this will sound alright. Alright, here's what we'll do now. Alright, we'll see how all that goes. Alright, cool. So with everything here taken care of. Oh, you know what I didn't even do? I didn't even bother adjusting what the actual sound is. I've done nothing with the note. Man, so much for trying to get this done in 2 hours. If I want to at least get 2 layers done. Okay, so now the question is, what notes do I play? That's gonna make it, man, everything I've just done is gonna have a totally different feel once I start changing what the note is. So either way, there's a little range here. So it's really between about minus 12 is 48 to 72. And we'll just set this. I'm trying to think. So if I've got the 4 different patterns here, if each one was, so it's 2, 3, 4, and then this one could be either 3 or 4. All right, well, one thing at a time. So I know I first need a sequence 2, and then that one's going to be hooked up, I guess, here. And then I need this one to be a sequence 3. What I might do Oopsies, that's not what I wanted. Pin, please. If this one's 4, for this last one, might be a sequence 4, and then I'll need to figure out how to reset it to make sure that's only 3. All right, we'll set this to sequence 4. If this is the fake 4th node, maybe that's what I hook into reset. There was one of the tracks where I tried doing stuff with sequences, but the triggers were inconsistent, so it ended up. It sounded good, thankfully, but I ended up getting some weird audio stuff. All right, we'll do. This is the part where I think I'm gonna need to whip out my note chart or something, because I don't have the MIDI notes memorized. This should not take long to go through the pictures. I really should bring all this stuff together. That's not what I'm looking for. That's my notes to frequencies chart. I'm looking for the MIDI note list. I should say MIDI to note. I don't know where that's saved. Somewhere, so let me whip out. Good old do-it-yourself MIDI controller. Useful MIDI note chart for Arduino programming. All right, so what we're looking for. So 60 is all right, and I wanted to do. Oh wait, hold on. That means I have to route this. Yeah, hold on. Doop. Because for every sequence, I need a route. Is that what I wanted? Well, yeah, I don't plan on using any floats. All right, so we're going to start with 60. So this is going to produce the exact same here. Oh, wait, but then that means... How do I convert all of these? I'll just use another route. And I type 3 again. Oopsies, that was a 5, not a 4. Okay, we're also going to copy this multiple times. And then the last thing I need, and this time I forgot, the G from this sentence went back in time to the other one. Whoa, time traveling G's. Okay. So now I have to hook up every single one of these lines here. Unfortunately, the more nodes you have in MIDI sounds, the slower and slower and slower it becomes. Which is rather sad because blueprints are so much faster when it comes to the workflow. It takes a massive amount of nodes in blueprints before you start feeling the lag. On here, I'm just doing one note layer, and I need to set up 5 of these. I don't need to specifically for this level, but we're gonna be consistent and set it up. Not all today, not all this stream. If the stream was popular enough, I'd consider working more on music. Let's not do 600. I don't even know what happens if you input a MIDI value above 127. Oop. Oh, that's okay. Hooray, math. Because 060 is equivalent to just 60. Alright, so now we hook up the values here. I feel like people have done, Well, here, I'll go back. I feel like I have done strange things on meta sounds, but then I watch tutorials by other people, and they have some weird setups as well. So it's not just me. Meta sounds is just a little odd in how you have to do certain functions. I don't know if that's improved because I'm still using Unreal 5.5. I don't know if I'll update the game to 5.7. I kind of want to, but maybe I'll wait around a couple years and say, let's upgrade to 5.9. Because for some reason, I'm very biased against using even number Unreal versions, and I only made an exception for Unreal 5.0, and I think 5.2. I guess 5.4 as well. I've made an exception for Unreal 5. Well, now that I've gone back, part of that was I was consistent. I haven't used 5.6 though. Anyways, I'm rambling. I needed to fill the void while I work on all these individual lines. Is that lined up? That was loud. Alright, so this should sound exactly how it was before. And all I would need to do is change these 60s to something else. So let's hit play layer 1, see how it goes. Alright, let me, here, can I minimize this or shrink it down? Because I still want to see the Tube Studio. Okay. There we go. I guess the positive for having a low resolution image displayed without any scaling. Alright, so how does 60 and 61 sound? 61 is C sharp though, so I might do 62. That's intense. Unless, what if I did, hold on. What if it was 62, 60? I almost want to swap between them, but I just set all this up to do so. Maybe this should be, maybe this one should just be 60 and 60 because it's consistent. There's only two different things here. That's not satisfying enough. We'll keep this one at 60 and 60, but for the other stuff. So now, what if we do 60, 62, 60? 60 is a happy place, and I think part of that is that's what I use default here. Okay, well now we gotta get there. Hold up. That's not emphasizing the right note. We're gonna keep that 60, 60 and set the last one to 62. Little changes, little changes. For once, I managed to make this sound good. I passed the one note test. Hooray. The one note test is a test for rhythm. Well, the concept of it is. The concept for the one note test is if you could have one individual note played equally, I should say have your rhythm with one individual note. How does it sound? Does it sound good? Because if so, then that means you've done well. But if it doesn't sound good with one note, your rhythm's not going to be good, and it's going to feel odd. We'll do 60, 62, 64, 60. Okay, so this one is a rising action. 60, 62, 64. So it gets them up, it goes, not upbeat. It goes up in pitch. I feel like we need to counteract that. When is next Rebel Rush? When was the last one? I've already forgotten. It was a few months ago, right? Alright, what if I did like 64, 60? Oh wait, this last one's not always gonna play though. If I did 60, 64, 62, 60, how's it gonna sound? Because we need some sort of decline to counteract the incline. That way we're back at the start. What was I saying? I don't think I timed that right. What was I saying before about how doing these trigger routes don't always sound correct because it's a non-consistent input? Okay, I might have to think about this or just accept it. I want to go back to regular Minecraft streams, but I might have to wait just a couple more weeks. I won't say February for sure. I can't guarantee that, but February likely. And hopefully I can get another couple more streams, couple more random streams in before then. Alright, I might have to look at the logic for this. So this top one is in, and then this is what reset does. Because this is what plays. So this is 1, this is 2, this here is 3, but I don't want it to reset on 3 for the first one. I want it to reset on 3 when it doesn't go. Maybe what I should do, if I did the second one was 4 and the first one was 3, this might time it so that way I end with the 4 back at 60. Let's see if I even did this right, because I don't know if just pulling the non-used pin here for 3 is what's gonna work. I wonder if I have to reset it after. Like, what if I might need a very minor delay. That way, I guarantee that it plays after this one. Unless, hold on. Here, let me go back to how it was before. So that one's on the up. This one's on the delay. Just enough. Here, we'll set it 0.01. You can get this time to be really, really small because this is all. Now the sounds is, well, I should say it can be as low as per sample, and so with audio rate of 48,000 times a second, you can get 1/48,000th of a second accuracy on here. Hooray, meta sounds. I'm very glad that this is implemented. Improvement over Unreal 4. Anyways, so now I think we'll give this a listen and see how it goes. Oh yeah, Rebel Rush was back in November, right? In that case, the next Rebel Rush is next November. I think I did it. Okay, I'm happy with this. with the exception of, I think that 62 needs to swap back and forth. I want it to be a 62 half the, I should say I want it to be a 62 on the first time it plays. Man, this last one is so complicated, but it also kind of sounds the best. Alright, it's the variation. Alright, so then that means I need a sequence here. Because I don't want it to always be 62. I want it to be a 62 the first time, and then we'll try 58 the second time. No, 59. 58 is A sharp. Hooray, cheat sheet. 32-2. Alright, so it just feels like it should be different on that second go. So 62, and then we'll try 59. That's okay because it picks right back up with a 60 right after. It goes back to C after that. I feel like if Soybean was here, he'd probably be yelling at me and be like, "What are you doing?" In which case I would tell him, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing math. And this math just so happens to make noise. That doesn't sound terrible." If 59 doesn't work, I'll set that one to a 60, but it just feels like it should be a 62 the first time and lower after that. Okay, well now I need it to be 62-59, but I need that 59 to be because it plays 4 times, which means I need it to be a 6, or I should say 59. Oh, this is so complicated. Hold on, let me just do another one of these. Because half the first time I wanted to be 59 because I do kind of like that being lower, but the second time it feels like it should go back up. This would be so easy to do if all these notes were laid out on a timeline, but I chose this path, and therefore we're committed to that. So that means only 1/4 of the time is at 59. Because it should be 62, 59, 62, 62. And that's already subdividing this. Yeah, this is so complicated. Yeah. It probably would have been easier if I had it all spread out. That way I can adjust the values manually. But because I'm repeating this, as it already is, this one's being repeated after a certain interval. And then I play 4 more times, 3 or 4 times after that. And this is when all my lines start getting a little bit complicated. Pump that up. We'll see if I did this right, because now I have every note in front of me. So I have 1, 3, 2, 4. So 62, 59, 62, 62. That 62 might be changed to a 60. I'm doing this one right. I don't know. All right, well here, let's listen. Ah, that sounds good. Let's see if it's repeatable, because that's the important part. I need to make sure it actually loops through properly. I'll go one more time. Okay, well here, we'll listen to this variation to make sure that this functions properly as well. But I think it should. It's all the pattern's the same. The only thing that changes is the volume level of the two different parts. There we go. Mina the Soy would probably like the outcome, but I don't know if he would like my methodology. Method. But oops. Terrible puns every day. Alright, well, that sounds chef's kiss right there. That last part, it got complicated with having 3 nested sequences and 3 routes, but it's okay because I figured it out. Alright, so with that taken care of, we have successfully completed, after an hour and 15 minutes, 1 note layer. So now, what I need to make layers 2 through 5 is this source right here, because this is what starts the audio. So, what we do now, we take all of this, and we say, zoop, bye. So we bump that up there, and we start totally fresh. We just keep all the lines as they need to be. Let me make sure I did this right. Let me hit player 2. Alright, cool, nothing happens. Not player 2, play layer 2. Okay, so now I'm thinking, I wonder if I can do a basic drum kit. Because with that taken care of, I'm using 85 BPM. So something a little more on the chill side. But it feels like we need drums. So we're gonna set this. Question is how often? Because I could do, like, say every one. Method really does say quite frequently fix your game notch. So this is going to be our initial repeat. So this is going to trigger something every quarter. All right, so I probably don't need to subdivide that. So I want drums on, drums off, but I'll figure out the off after I get the on. Because you gotta figure out what you're, well, this is at least how I think, figuring out how you want it to sound when everything's playing, and then after you can turn off components once you have it all there. Notch is probably fine. You know, I don't know if Notch is fine. That's not true. I haven't been seeing what he's been saying on Twitter lately. But I'm pretty sure, last I heard, he's still a billionaire living on his private island. So he's not poor financially. Alright, so either way, I needed. There was like 5 components to a drum kit. Oh, like 3, and then a couple optional, I think. So, we're gonna go. Do I just happen to have any tom? Because there's stuff from like harmonics, the harmonics plugin, but I haven't touched any of that. That's just how to add MIDI stuff, but I haven't implemented any of that yet. So we are looking for. I don't have dramatic, right? Oh, I do have dramatic. What? What did I import these? I shouldn't complain. Should be happy. Good job, me of the past. Thank you. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted something a little bit nicer. Okay, we're gonna use that one, so that's 6. 8 and 6. No, 8 and 10. Sorry, 6 and 10. Maybe it should be 8 and 10. I'll use 6 and 10. All right, so we're gonna start here. Boop. All right, first, what we are going to absolutely do is probably every 2, maybe. So let's pull out one of those as well. So we are going to get another one of these. This is going to be our kick. So we'll start here. We'll start with the simple stuff before getting to the not simple stuff. We'll see if 2 is often enough or not often enough. Was it 2? No. 5. It might be 5. We'll see if I go with 5. 7. I want 7 because it's shorter. I don't hear a difference between these. We'll just go with 7. Unless it's something else. Not at 11, 12. That's not what I wanted. I guess we'll go with 9. Hello, Koski, welcome back. Alright, we'll see how this sounds. And we'll get our mono mixer 4 because we're going to cluster all these in, or all these, the entire drum kit all together. If I want to split it up, I'll do that later. Who's the new vanilla dev? Oh wait, are you talking the head of Vanilla Minecraft, Katie Scott, who's joining Mojang Studios in February 2026? Currently, I'm going in with no opinions, and I'm just going to wait and see after she does stuff. We'll see what sort of changes happen. This is not going to be a billion hours long, technically. The music I'm working on is going to be procedurally generated, which means it can play a billion years if you hit play and have a functioning computer running constantly for a billion years. Unless there's some sort of engine mathematical limitation that we end up hitting before then. But otherwise, no. I'm only designing short segments. Alright. Is that quieter than when I was clicking on this? See, that's so loud, but then I hit here. And it's quiet. Alright, we're going to bump that up to, let's say, 2.5. We'll see if that's too loud or not. I don't know. I don't know if we have, or if we can make any hardware durable enough to last a billion years. There's a lot of outside forces that would cause the computer to stop being a computer. Procedural music meant, or starting 2000 meant to go for 1,000 years. Interesting. Yeah, I have no way to prevent repeats, but that is interesting. Well, here, we'll see how this goes compared to what we currently have. I think that might be too slow. We're going to set this to every 1. I feel like with the drums, it should be keeping up. Okay, I think that one's fine. And what I'll do a counter here. This is music this is music that is for my Threeangle game. We'll reset this. I don't know. What do I want the reset size to be? So it's 1 every 4. That means that's every... I don't know. I'll just set this to like 16. Nah, I don't like that. We'll set this to 32. And now what I'll do is... this is where I got the trigger filter. Get the seed at the bottom because variables are separate from all the other stuff. And we'll say that 75% of the time that this resets, we play the kick. December 31st, 1999. Where is it running? Or is it like it's using the real world time? And so you just view it with whatever the current time is, and that will generate that specific portion. Maybe this should be below, because I need, it's not gate, control. I don't know why it's called trigger control when it does function as the blueprint's gate, but that's not important. So 75% of the time, oh wait, hold up, not 75, I needed to be 0.75, 0 to 1. Let's, whatchamacallit that. So 75% of the time, we will play the kick. 25% of the time, we will not play the kick. Every 32. I guess if it's 1 every 4. I don't know. We'll just see how that feels first. We're going to slide this to there. Oh, wait, hold on. I already did this wrong because it's supposed to be boop. Hook that up there. I don't want to pull from source. How about we slide this over? I don't need to be way up there. Nah. Alright, boop. Alright, so we have that. We'll let that do what it wants. And now we're gonna do some more of these random sequences here. Long all through the Farlands, I don't know how it ended up being so good for how old it is. It's so basic, but at the same time, it's exactly what it needs to be because walking to the Farlands sounds like that. Minecraft Farland, I should say the journey to Minecraft Farlands is very slow, very repetitive. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna swap back and forth between these. All right, so every... Oh wait, hold on. We're gonna use... Oh wait, this is not every one I was talking about. Oops. we can get rid of that since it's going to be branched off here. So this is going to be every, what am I looking for? I need another repeat. And this one's going to be reduced to 0.25. Speaking of walking to the, well, I should say not walking, long haul to the far lands. And then we'll do this 4 times. Oh wait, but that's just going to be 1. Sure, feel free to DM me the link. I'll check it out later. We'll do this. Here, what if we did 3 times every 0.25? I might have to branch off of something that's more than a quarter, though. We'll see how this goes. Oh wait, hold up. We need a poop. I don't know how loud this is going to be, so we'll find out once we hit play. That's alright, but it's kind of boring after a while. Our job now is to make this interesting. What if I don't always play here? Is this the short one? Oh wait, that one's 6. Oops, these are both 6. I didn't even do this right. Okay, hold on. Let's make this less boring by doing as I was supposed to. That's fine, except I think this might be a little bit too fast. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set this to 0.5, but we're not pulling off of every 1. Instead, what we're going to do is pull off of every 2. And I'm starting to get hungry already, but I still have half an hour minimum. Man, there's no way, unless if I just magically get inspiration, there's no way I'm going to get all 5 of these layers implemented. I'm pretty sure level 2 is going to go by fast, though. So we should be able to at least start and hopefully finish 3, but I don't know what I'm doing for 3 yet. I don't plan this out. I don't know what I was doing. I went into this with no audio in my head. What if I did 0.75? Decisions. We'll bump this to 4. And we'll set this to 1. No, it does indeed need to be faster. 0.5, and what if we did 5? What's the first one I was listening to? Hold on, let me try to find. Oh wait, it's not supposed to be 6 and 8. It was supposed to be like 8 and 10. Yeah. All right, hold on. Let's see if this sounds better, or if I done goofed. I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting there. The question is how to make this a little different. What I might do, I need to see how to do this. Because I feel like half the time, maybe not half, some of the time, I might want to play this twice, which means this is going to have to be a trigger. Oh, wait, no, maybe it doesn't need to be a trigger any. We'll set this, because that's based on this one. All right, let's get the counter from here. We'll do every... Oops, not 18, I wanted 16. Every 16, we're going to do the same thing of what we did before, except we're not going to hook that up to a control. So whenever this resets, this one will start at 0.5. See how I'm feeling. So now what I need is a... was it trigger? Oh wait, it's the trigger repeat, and then I need to determine how many times it repeats. Alright, so on trigger, that does what it needs to. And I'll need another... I did not get seed. Slide that over. Because now I need trigger route 2, int 32.2. So every heads will repeat it once. Every tails will repeat twice. Determine the number of repeats, and the period between is 0.5. Let's see if we just hook that up, and that will reduce the amount of nodes we have. So now, half the time per interval that it decides, I don't know how many of these are lined up and how many they're not. Every once in a while, I should say under certain circumstances, there's a way to get the nodes not exactly lined up, and I don't know why that is. It's like when you move stuff with a mouse, it's not the same increments as when you just do stuff automatically. This happens in blueprints as well, so it's just however Unreal deals with node placement. But, oh well. Anyways, I'm like probably move that up, in fact. There we go. Perfectly balanced. Not really, but it's better than what it was. So we'll see if this plays. So half of the time, this is going to play once. The other half of the time, it's going to play twice. We'll see how this feels. The variation is what makes it fun. And hope this doesn't crash or anything. I think I hooked this up to the wrong one. So this one needs to hook up there, but I need... Oh, that's what went wrong. So this is where I get the counter from. This is where I get the trigger for it. And then I don't need to deal with onset. That's not important. I just need the value. There we go. And then we'll keep an eye out here, because we need to watch for whenever that triggers. Okay, I think this might be a little bit too slow. We're going to say instead of 16, we'll bring that down to 8. cut that in half. This is going to make it twice as likely to decide. I should say it's going to update twice as often now. 4, I think. Maybe I should set that to 4. Okay, we're going to set this down to 4. Oh boy, that's rather slow. I want it to be more frequently than what that was. I wasn't watching the time up top, but that would have told me how long until it starts iterating. So it triggered once, so now this has to trigger like 5 times or so, because hooray probability with this seed. This is not happening nearly as fast as anticipated. I'm trying to listen for it. It's just not doing what it's supposed to. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to bump this down to like 0.2. Nah, 0.15. We are going to make it very likely for this test. This triggers twice, because I want to hear how it sounds. But like I said, a seed of 5 really likes to I think I might change this. I can hear it, and it's alright, but I think I might change this to 0.25. Not 20.5. Over that, change that. Alright, so instead of resetting every 4, I think we're going to reset every 2. We're going to make this a little more often. I'll bring the probability back up to 0.5, but that's after this. It still keeps choosing heads. There we go. Okay, that's doing better. I like that, and I think this is good. So we're going to set that to 0.5. Okay, that's going to give me, what, 15 minutes for the next one? I was kind of thinking about what we'll do for the next, whatchamacalled, the next layer. So thankfully, I might hopefully get the next one done, but we'll see. Alright, regardless, let's give this all a listen and see how it's going so far. Because you gotta know how it all comes together. I think I might know what I need. Hopefully. I think sometimes there should be a 7. We're getting there. But it feels like sometimes there's too much of a pause. We're going to keep it between 5 and 7 because... In fact, yeah, we'll do this every... In fact, yeah, we'll do this every 2 as well, which means let's bring this back. So I want to keep it at 7. That way there's still a little bit of pause after the last one, and that way it also stays offset because it swaps back and forth, but it swaps back and forth unevenly because it goes one then the other. So we're gonna pull off. In fact, if I'm just gonna use 50% as well, do I want that though? I'll say, for sake of wanting to change it later, we'll say no. So we'll set that to, how about 0.6? 60% of the time, it will repeat 5 times. 40% of the time, it will repeat 7 times. That'll make it slightly more rare that it plays 7 than it will play 5. And especially with this seed. Oh wait, hold on. That should go on top. And let's bring all the nodes. There we go. Alright, let's give this a full listen. And I might leave it at that. I'm watching that to see how it goes. Whenever the 7 triggers, because I still haven't heard it yet. Alright. I think that 7, having that 7 there does add a little bit more interestingness to it. Don't think that's a word, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Alrighty, hooray! We have 10 minutes to at least get one more layer done. This one will be nice and simple. I'm just thinking... I still don't have that electric piano. Now, I should really add those note samples, but that's going to be another time, because that's going to be short. So let me examine again what the instruments I have, and what will sound best for what I want. Because I'd rather not work with a wave generator for this one. So we're looking at underscore A1-0001. All right, base, space B, bells calliope. Is this consistent? That's a very low note, can't remember, but I would want that higher. I could do death metal. Distorted might not be bad. I want something that's not too harsh. Piano is always a safe bet. What does it sounds? Do I want a violin? Nah, this doesn't need to sound sad. Because that's like really intense. And that's like a little nicer. But the guitar, I think all the guitars I have are plucks. Oops. Distorted it is. Alright, question is, where do I begin? Oopsies. Is there a way? I might have a plan, but we'll start here. Here, what if I start at the very lowest one? Let me just grab. How long does this last for? That goes on a while. I'm gonna have to use an envelope for that. That doesn't decay fast enough. Alright, we'll probably just do a basic 80 envelope. I don't need ADSR for this. Doop-a-doop. Alright, so tag time's gonna be probably a nice flat 0, and then decay time, we're gonna hook this up to the BPM counter. Alright, so this will last maybe 4, unless if I do want, do I want to, yeah, we'll start here. We'll just see how this goes, because I can adjust the curve. So if greater than 1 is logarithmic decay, because if exponential means it drops fast, log should mean it drops slowly. So we'll set this to, here, we'll keep it at 1, that way I can hear the starting point. And then every 4 over 4, so every whole beat, I believe. Do. And then let's hook that up way over here. I don't think I'll get this done in 5 minutes, but I am definitely not going to be a 3-hour stream. Log will drop fast and then slow, but slow down in how fast it drops exponentially. Does that mean exponential will drop slowly and then go fast? Because I want slow then fast, not fast then slow, and that depends on what value I put here. Because for the attack, it's the opposite. Less than 1 is log, greater than 1 is exponential. But for decay, less than 1 is exponential, and greater than 1 is log. So we'll start at 1, linear. That is very, that's very fast. I did not want that to be 5, I wanted that to be a 4. I think. Here, how does it sound off the bat? Okay, so that's linear. We're gonna bump this up to, say, a 4. 4 holds. I should say 4 sustains for much longer, I believe. Because that goes by a little fast, and here we'll bump this up to 8. It sustains much faster, or I should say it sustains for much longer. So greater than 1 is log is what I want, because I want to hold that before dropping. Alright. So we're going to bump that there, except we need this to be quieter. That's where the mixer comes in, is we're going to do this 4 times. The envelope is going to be the same for each of them, but we're going to play 4 different notes. So then that's where sequence comes in. Do I want 4 or do I want 8? How complicated do I want this to be? We're going to go complicated. We'll make this 8. Alright, so there's our first one. So now we say, sorry, mono mixer, we're going to get rid of you. I can visualize the graph in my mind. I just didn't know in which way. Boop. I wish that Metasounds had a visualization for these envelopes, but unfortunately they don't. The only nodes I think that has a visualization is the filter, the biquad filter, because it will show you about how, look, so this is a regular low pass filter. So if we set this to 8,000, you'll see boop, it changes. And if we set the bandwidth to 3, boop, it changes. So a little filter or a little graph like this would have been or would be beneficial on these envelopes, but I don't know how to do that. Sad times. Very well could just be a not implemented feature. This is what happens when you use not entirely production ready content. That's going to be a lot of lines from that envelope. Okay, I changed my mind. We are, in fact, going to hook these up to the mixer. And then out of here is going to be the envelope. That's going to simplify things. Alright, so that's there. Bring this down. Oops. Put that back. Alright, so now I need 4 of these, or 6 more. I almost wonder if I could have just used 1 and did the cheap but not as good thing and just pitch shifted. Because I can't get any lower than 1. I don't have rendered whatever, whatchamacallit. I don't have, oh wait, this is distorted. Distorted what I want? Yes, because I want distorted, I don't want death metal. Well, let me see, is distorted the one? That's indeed not. So it's death metal is the one that goes, there we go. Alright. Whatever instrument, I can't remember what it was, but whatever instrument I pulled the samples from is a little unique in that death metal has 2 different audio types. Because on the low end, you have the notes drawn out, but on the upper end, it's just a zoop, quick pluck. Alright, so now we bring this over. In fact, here, how about we zoop all that together, because on my meta sounds, I like when it's a nice vertical alignment. But I have to hook up all these lines. Doo-doo-doo-doo. What I'll probably do, as I'm thinking about it, what I'll probably end up doing is also adding a trigger filter here. And say it plays for one, then it doesn't play the other. So that means I need, I don't know how to hook that up. Because if this is repeating every 4, okay, well I'll get that functionality in at the end. So we're just going to bump all this down to, let's say, 0.25. Although I don't know if it would be faster or not to just add a gain multiplier at the end, as opposed to adjusting every individual value. Alright, how does it sound? That's nice and quiet. That's about what I want. Still needs to be quieter. When time comes to pan this across the different speakers, I'll worry more about volume. I just need it to be about where I want it to begin with. Howdy, Ian. Welcome back. I don't know how much longer I'll be going. Whenever I finish this instrument layer, okay, that might be a little bit too well here. Oh, y'all do not even hear that on the stream. I mean, I'd rather be quieter than not loud enough. Y'all can see the center speaker going up there though. So that way, at least you can see the relative output. You are near the end. I just want to get this third instrument layer done. Okay, that's barely popping up on stream now. Okay, so I have all this going. What if I started? So I can't get any lower than 1, which means what does this sound at -12 semitones? Let's find out. Is that even going to be audio or audible? Oopsies, wrong layer. I would say welcome to my world and using LMMS, except I'm not currently using LMMS because this is in-game audio. Or, yeah, in fact, I have to say audio because I use this for both sound effects and music. Who pre-renders sounds? Nah, we're gonna make sequences like those old games back when you were limited on disk space. That's why a lot of old games use sequenced audio instead of streamed audio. Anyways, that did not sound terrible. So if we did like -12, 0, -6, 0. If I did like 2, 0. No, 2, 3, 0. Alright, let's see how this goes. I have my doubts, because I was honestly just typing in random numbers, but I do that a lot. That one doesn't sound good, but I don't know which one it is. Uh-oh. Yes, engine crash. What was I saying earlier? Do AAA games still use audio based on, or I should say dynamic audio that changes based on player input? I need to fix this. In fact, hold on. What if I, no, I don't have time. I'll fix this later. I already pulled up the stuff. Anyways, what I was going to say was, do modern day AAA games use sequence audio for the reason of dynamic player input? It feels like that is very uncommon these days. But it could be I just play a small sample of modern day games to begin with. Alright, so which one doesn't sound good? One of these is not good, and I want to know which one it is. We're on 3. I think it's that one. 2 and 4. That's unfortunate. Man, am I gonna have to end early because this is consistently not working? I have a music track somewhere in here. I don't remember which one, but I have a music track where I can't do what I wanted to do because it fries meta sounds. It just stops working, and I don't know why it does that. I'm hoping that's not an issue here. I can always check by listening to the music in the game itself. Well, in fact, while I'm here, let me make sure to set that. So we need... We're going to make sure to add this music track. We are playing Wiggle Wiggle Wiggle. That's this level. Alright, we're going to see if it's a problem with my logic or not. It's not playing. Oh wait, hold on. Is my volume down? I think I turned the volume down. We're going to head back to the main menu real fast. Yeah, I have the audio muted. Oop. I don't need sound effect volume right now. Alright, so... That's loud. We're going to set that to 0.3. Alright. Let's reload the level. Boop. Now I'll hear it. It's not crashing, so that means it's not a problem with the logic itself. Because it sounds fine in the game. The problem is with the thingies. Are those squares in the middle? Fans? They're little fans in their containers. Something like that. I don't know, it's up for interpretation. I should change the background sky on that, but that's for future me. By the time that this level is released, I'll probably figure something out. Unless I end up forgetting and I don't change the background. Alright, either way, what I'm looking for is I want this to play, I should say, every other time. So that means counter is 4. No, 8. Because there's 8 parts of the sequence. Alright, so this will be it. So if anyone haven't liked this enough, there's a little bit of time, like days, before I get back to work on the music here. So I guess speak now, or I'll finish this music track on my own, and not on stream. So every 8, we're gonna do a sequence here. So the first thing we're going to do, oh, in fact, this needs to be a trigger any, because I need to make sure that it plays the first time. Oh wait, hold on. I needed to select the first one first, which means on play. There we go. So on play, it does that. And then every time after play on reset. This, what I would do, I should say, is either finish the music on my own time if nobody cares, or have another stream at a later day where I finish the music then. So I need from here, not a gate, control. I like how if you start typing gate, it knows you mean control, which means they totally could have just called it a trigger gate, but whatever. All right, so the first time it opens, the second time it closes. That is every instance of this. Every time this resets, so that means every 8 whole notes, I believe. Every 8 beats. Alright, so we're going to look down here. That way there's nothing animated on our screen. We're going to save. I don't plan on having been to the soy help with this track. I'm already halfway done. I say halfway, but in reality it's like a third. Because I need to finish the rest of the layers, and then I need to also pan it across the 6 speakers. Well, I guess 5.5 speakers. Eight might be too short. I might do 16. Because now it feels like it's missing. What I think I will do, though, as I was saying earlier, I think I'm going to do a filter. What's it called? Biquad filter. So what I want, do I want low pass? It's either low pass or is it band? Hold on, let me set this about the middle point. Let's set that to 8. Set that to 2. Because I could do like maybe even like 1. And then we'll set this to 2. Gain doesn't affect this, right? Only certain types on here you can have the gain affect. The gain affect the filter. We'll try 1.5. Oop. We'll see how this sounds, because I don't want it to be as prominent as it was. But I may or may not have been paying attention to what the output is to know what frequency range I actually want to keep. So we'll do that, and we'll listen. I barely hear that. Okay. We'll keep that at 1. No, we'll bring this higher. Set that to 2. Set this to 3. I'd rather preserve more. I'm trying to cut down on the distortion. Well, now that just sounds rather more consistent. Just quieter. Either way, if I need to bump up the volume, then that means bring all this to 0.5. We'll keep this, we'll bump that down to 2.5. It's still a little up there, which means we're going to set this to 1.5. But we're getting there, because now I can hear it. I did hook this up right. Yes, I did. Alright, what if I do 1? Nah, we'll do 0.5. The only problem is now that makes it sound nearly all the same because it's one specific frequency I'm bringing in. Or I should say the highest point is one specific frequency, so that's what we hear across all the different notes. Okay, here's what I think we'll do. Bring that down to 0.25. Nah, we'll do 0.33. And then we're gonna do what people do all the time. And we're gonna add reverb. The magical R button. Alright, so the question is, do I add it as a basic delay or do I add... Is it plate reverb? Why is there no plate reverb mono? Because I like this more than the just using default delay. But like, this accepts left and right. And I don't plan on having all that be that, even though I guess that does make it more accurate. It gets complicated, but this still is good enough for what I need. I wonder if I should hook that up into both. Nah, this will not be 3 hours. I'm determined to not make it 3 hours. Because I'm like right at the end here. So how does this sound default? And I don't know if this is going to end up being loud or not. We need a lot more... We need a lot more diffusion and stuff. We're going to bump up dampening and diffusion and bandwidth. This gain might be useful. We'll leave that as is. Pre-delay before late reflections. Nothing. Dry level is going to be maybe 0.25. Keep density way up there. You know what, here, maybe bring this down to 0.75 and then decay. We'll do 0.2. Once I tweak these values enough, it'll be the end. Decisions. Bring out 0.05 with dampening, maybe 0.5 question mark. I wonder how small I can make this. 0.005. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing. I'm gonna bring dry level down even more. I'm totally maximizing some of these values, but that's okay. This might be fine for just background noise. Although I will say they are indeed a little bit slow. So I have this as 4. We're gonna set this to a hard reset. Oh, wait. Oh, that's right. I'm using this, we'll bump that up to 16. Because I don't want as noticeable as a dip as the end. Or at the end, I should say. I don't plan on having the game use custom music for levels, but I do want the level editor. This might end up being what you're asking, it's just not worded how I thought it. But yeah, I want community levels made with the level editor will be able to add their own music. And part of that is I haven't implemented a default music track. I haven't implemented a default music track that plays for custom levels that don't have their own music defined. I might turn that kick down a little bit, otherwise we're like right there. Alright, so we're gonna say, instead of 2.5, we'll set that to 2. And then we're gonna do one thing. Oh, that's gonna require. Alright, here's the last thing we're gonna do. We're gonna set this to a float envelope. We'll probably keep that attack timeout as decay will continue being 16, but we're gonna map this output range. I did not get more hard drive space. I haven't had, well, that's not true. I haven't spent the money on a new hard drive in a couple of years now. So the answer is still no. We might set that to maybe 0.05. Keep that 16. Then instead of being a 0 to 1 output, we're going to do... well, here, let me think about this as it normally is. So it's going to be 1 to 0. Oh, but wait, then that means it's going to constantly be playing multiplied by... There's no way to get an output of 0 if I do 1 to 0 is 1 to 0.5. That way it never goes completely quiet. You know what? Okay. We're gonna say, just kidding. We will enforce a hard reset, but we're gonna make this last just a little bit longer. How many threads do people make that are actually acted upon? Alright, let's see. How does this go? Now that does indeed go. I should say now it does indeed flow into it a little bit more. We might bring that down instead of whatchamacalled. Unless, hold on, I need to visualize this graph in my head. Set that back to 4, and this is about to be maybe 7. See, now it flows into each other, and it doesn't cut completely. Alright, I guess that's all that. So our final thoughts now as we are in the end here. So this is all good enough for me to leave it as it is. We shall see what comes with the rest of it eventually. Alright, but yeah, that is indeed all it for today. Thank you all for watching. Bye.